Hey everybody. Hey, I'm Tony. We're gonna have a panel for you today. We have two guys from US Foods doing a panel on food profitability, and I'm here to introduce them. So we have Doug Kruschke, right here. 16 years with US Foods in various roles, most recently the Director of New Business, MBA from Wisconsin School of Business, BS in Restaurant Management from University of Wisconsin. Wisconsin Stout, founder of Haymarket Grill Restaurant. It's an upscale bar and grill concept focused on local scratch cooking paired with craft beer and wine. He lives in Saratoga Springs with his wife and two boys. And then Corey Colberger, got it. He's a new business manager with US Foods, bringing over a decade of experience in food service sales, operations, profitability, and consulting. Background includes roles as restaurant operations consultant and earlier work in sales and training with the Renzi Food Service. Bachelor's degree in business administration from Lemoyne College, and he lives in Liverpool. All right. Have fun, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. So, Doug Kruschke, had my own restaurant, ran that for a while, sold with partners. One of the focuses that we had was craft beer and pairing it with food, like doing beer dinner, doing all that good stuff. That was making food really old, but that was 20 years ago that I did that. So really before the boom and everything kind of happened with stuff. So I did a lot of education with that and trying to get that out. Most of that experience is all in Wisconsin, so Wisconsin beer drinkers here. We're going to talk a lot about like profitability and some of, like, give you a few tools to be able to take back and utilize within your operation on how to just make it a little bit more efficient and how to put together a profitable menu as well. So, I'll pass it to Corey.
Can everybody hear me so we don't have to use the mic? I can walk around and possibly my AD doesn't do very well staying behind the podium. Thank you everybody for coming. I know it's the end of the 3 days. Probably people are, almost spent, but thank you very much for coming to our presentation on managing cost of goods and building menus for profitability. And I have to say I'm excited. I do a lot of these presentations, but it's very rare that people in the crowd have drinks and I can actually drink a beer while we do it. So I'm very excited and happy about that. So I have to say this is the first. Very cool. So we'll kind of get into it. Obviously, thank you for the introduction, Tony. My name's Corey. This is Doug. Hey, we're cool too. If anybody has questions while we talk about things, throw your hand up. We're all about that kind of stuff, about collaborating. What you see up here is at US Foods, this is our brand promise to our customers. And so the presentation we're going to go through today is sort of a pared down version of workshops that we were doing over the last year and a half with various groups of our independent operators and owners, really sort of born out of this commitment and focused on just trying to bring up some industry standards for people, best practices and solutions to way they can find more profitability in their business. So that's kind of what we're going to do today. Obviously, we also thought that when we deal with breweries, often that there's headwinds out there, right? It's competitive. The younger generation doesn't drink anymore, right? All these things are happening. And oftentimes we find that, the original business plan starts with beer. And not that the restaurant or the tap room was necessarily an afterthought, but it wasn't the genesis of the original business idea sometimes, right? So we thought that sharing some of this stuff and best practices would be helpful for some. So that's kind of what we're going to do today. Quick agenda, we're going to go over prime cost management, identify what are prime costs and why they're important to manage and understand in your business. We're going to talk about how to calculate food cost percentages properly. I know a lot of people are probably doing it, but we meet people all the time. There's a lot of different variations of how to calculate food costs. So I want to make sure that people understand what is the proper way to do that. Doug's going to get into some of those pitfalls we see in those variances between an actual and a theoretical food cost. Then we'll end with touching on designing and engineering menus that can drive profitability in your business. Some tips and tricks that we've learned over the years. So it's kind of the agenda. We're going to kick it off actually. This is one of my former colleagues, Brian Kirby out of Missouri. He's going to do a quick introduction of this video to prime cost. He's also going to introduce a theme that kind of was very prevalent in the workshops we did, and you'll see it here too, which is finding buried treasure. Finding buried treasure within your business, right? Through waste and inefficiencies that can help you gain 2%, 3%, 4% more profit in that restaurant, right? In fact, finding areas where maybe those treasures would be buried that we can kind of do better with processes to realize that. So, good, Brian.
Many restaurant operators feel they just don't have the time to calculate actual cost of goods, take inventory, determine theoretical cost of goods, and analyze variances. However, the truth is that in addition to growing top-line sales, taking the time to find, measure, and manage hidden profits is the most impactful activity an operator can do to improve financial performance. Let's look at an example of how impactful recovering hidden profits from prime costs can be for a restaurant. This example focuses only on the cost of goods bucket, but it is equally important to focus efforts on labor costs as well. For this example, let's use an independent restaurant with $1.5 million in annual sales. The restaurant completes all the calculations on their cost of goods, and they find that their actual cost of goods for a year was $555,000, or 37% of sales. Initially, they were happy with this result because achieving a 37% cost of goods was their budgeted amount. But after calculating their theoretical cost of goods, the operation finds out that their best possible cost of goods was $480,000, or just 32% of sales. This discovery shows that they had a 5% variance to sales, resulting in $75,000 of their money going somewhere else. That is a lot of hidden profits waiting to be found. After meeting with the US Foods restaurant operations consultant, they set a variance goal of 2% of sales, and plans are made to eliminate the waste they have been experiencing beyond that. This means that the goal is to find another 3% of hidden profits on $1.5 million in sales. That amount would be $45,000 of hidden profits. How much in additional sales would it take for a restaurant making 5% profit to produce that $45,000 in additional profit? Doing the math, this restaurant would need to increase sales by $900,000 a year to produce that additional $45,000 in profits. Let's think about that for a moment. If an operator knew they had $45,000 in cash buried in their backyard, they would immediately go on a treasure hunt to find that hidden profit, right? But again, many operators believe they just don't have the time to do the work to uncover the buried treasure or hidden profits in their restaurant. Yet, as we just discovered, the return on time spent can yield tremendous results that are easily maintained. Now imagine if this operator went after the buried treasure that lies hidden in their labor costs as well. What a profit transformation that would be for their operation. Hopefully, it is becoming clear that taking the time to accurately measure, analyze, and manage a restaurant's prime cost is essential to becoming a consistently profitable restaurant. This kind of buried treasure exists in many independent restaurants, and it deserves to be uncovered. Making the time for prime cost management is really making time to succeed.
All right, so those numbers might have been a little big, right? Like, admittedly, but the idea is, you talk for a second about like the prime cost equation, right? And that prime cost metric, and oftentimes one of the most impactful metrics that you measure for a restaurant's profitability. So, and why is something we need to focus on and think about? Because it's the most controllable for our restaurant. I know sometimes it seems like it's not that controllable, but realistically, those are the things that we have more control over than other things. So I want to quickly just dive into like, what are our prime costs, right? Let's define what's in that and what's not in that. So essentially, we kind of, for a restaurant, right, there's 5 cost buckets that we manage. Food costs, beverage costs, and our labor costs. And those 3 costs, right, we add them together is our prime costs. Then we also have things like overhead, right? You have marketing budgets and things like that. You have building costs, right? You have your lease, rent, whatever it is, and you know, repairs to the front door. At the end of the day, for restaurants, right? The NRA tells us that for restaurants, the average profit is 5%. For all the work and hard work and right that everybody does, that's the average. Now some do better, and unfortunately, many do worse. One thing we do know is the most profitable businesses in our space are the corporates, right? Are the chains. I mean, nobody, I don't like it, y'all don't like it, right? But that is the truth of it. And, you know, they're realizing closer to 10% or more. And why is that, right? I mean, we can have arguments that they have more capital, possibly they throw more money in market. Okay, we can do that. But when it comes to the prime cost equation and the things they can control, and the things that we all can control in our restaurants, why is that? Because they've integrated systems, they have processes, and they have technology integrated. Everything that they're doing when it comes to labor, managing their cost of goods. And that's how they can realize some of the buried profits that Brian talked about in that video, because there's less inefficiencies, there's less waste, right? And it's netting them more money in their pocket at the end of the day. So that's kind of what we're going to get to today a little bit. We're going to talk about cost of goods, that specific bucket, and what we can do maybe to one, let's start with how do we calculate this properly so you really understand what is your food cost percentage, not just theoretical. And then we're going to get into Doug's going to say more about like what are the things that we can think about and do from a process and system standpoint to maybe shrink that gap and that variance for more profitability of your business. So one thing I want to ask real quick, I mean, I think everybody knows that efficient inventory management is important for ordering and how much we have on hand and reaching efficiencies possibly and shrink and all that stuff, right? But how many people here, when they're calculating the food cost for the restaurant, show of hands if you can, are actually doing a physical count in the month, week, quarter? Some. Cool, that's about what we see. Some, not everybody. So bravo to you guys that are doing it, and I would also say if you're not, I understand it's burdensome. It's a commitment. It's kind of an intimidating process a little bit, right? We don't have time. We've gotten this to focus on food and people and beer, right? Not necessarily, do math all day. Right? I don't think anybody got this to do math. So, but it's such an important task that it's too important to ignore. But we're going to get into a little bit of, okay, how should we calculate that? And what are some tools out there that you may have access to, may not even realize, that can help you do that task and help you understand how you really are performing when it comes to measuring your cost of goods. So, real quick, we meet with people all the time, right? We consult with restaurants and we talk to them and we say, hey, how are you calculating your food costs? And these first two methods are very common. It's what we see all the time. So maybe people are out there doing this now, but taking your invoices overall for your distributors, dividing it by your sales, and it spits out a number, and that's my food cost. Maybe getting a little granular and taking those invoices and backing out things like cleaning supplies and chemicals and just focusing on the food, and just taking your food sales, doing the division, and getting a number. And if you're doing that, cool. Like, it's giving you something, I guess, right? But at the end of the day, the proper way to calculate food costs requires taking that count, that physical count. It takes time and energy, right? No, sorry, the box there, right, the box. So basically the math for that is you have to start an inventory, okay, which is usually your previous end of the month count. You add in your purchases, you take that count at the end of the month, everything in your building, right? Get that total on-hand value, subtract it out, divide it by your sales. That gives you the number that you need to work with. That's the only true way to really understand how you're performing. I'm going to show you why in the next slide. So let's just take that invoice-only method, right? That's very common out there. Take your purchases, divide by your sales, let's just spit a number out. I'm just going to say 32.7. And if I see 32.7 and I'm as busy as everybody in here, I'm going to say, cool, I'm moving on, right? I got staffing issues, I got the parties to get ready for, I got all this stuff I got to worry about. 32.7 is pretty good. Would I rather be 29? Sure, I can deal with 327, I'm going on. But if you do the calculation the proper way and actually take those counts, starting inventory 65, purchases, now you have an ending inventory of 4, you can see on the right your usage is 20,500. Right? Now, the simple math is going to tell you right now, you add those sales in, you're looking at 37%. That's different animal, right? Now you look at that, now with a 5% almost gap or variance between my theoretical my actual food cost percentage. Now you guys are going to stop and think probably, right? And go, where is that going? Why am I losing 5% based on what my purchases are, what my sales are? It's going somewhere, and Doug's getting into it, there's shrink, there's staff, there's all kinds of things, but you're not going to understand how you're performing unless you do it this way. Now, the good news, there are tools out there for you guys. So like I know that the people who are counting now, let me guess, is it a clipboard or you walk around the back and you put it in, you update the clipboard with your current invoice pricing and you do the math and you all that stuff, right? It takes time. There's no doubt about it. It's an effort. It's something you have to tackle. Talk to your current distributors. They should have, right, or they most have, some sort of an inventory program that you can use where you can build a list on a phone or on a tablet, and you can walk around the establishment and put in those counts. So if you're counting in your background, you can set up just sheet the shelf, right? You can literally walk around. You go, I got a box of wings, 2 cases of burgers, half a case of lettuce, I got 2 slices of pies left over. You can get as granular as you need to. It'll do that math for you. And it'll spit out the pricing from your distributor. It'll spit it all out and say, this is how much you have on hand. And you can take your sales and divide that into it, and then it'll help. I can tell you that we have one that works great. And this is not a commercial for US Foods, I promise, but we have one. But we had a customer recently in 2 locations. They started using it, and he's like, Corey, I can't tell you how many hours we're saving for both locations by doing it like this. Just and the errors. Is that a 7? Is that a 1? Or fat figuring things? Like that happens, right? So like this takes errors out of the equation. It takes time out of the equation, which is obviously so valuable for everybody. And the point of this is, it just makes it a task that hopefully you're willing to try to do. Because it's too important. That's kind of the point. There are also third parties out there. Craftable, Restaurant 365. I think, find me after. I can talk about it for a second. There's third-party restaurant-specific tech companies out there that can handle this too, that you can partner with to do some of this work too. I'm not saying you have to go through this to do it, but there are people out there. Inquire. So it's super helpful, and it can save you a lot of time and energy by doing that. Another thing I'll mention too that you can all do if you want to start this process now and make your life easier is using GL codes on your invoices. All distributors can do this. Talk to your distributors. You can break down how your invoices come in, right? So very common to have all your food into one, or cleaning into one. That way, when you are finding your food sales, you're not going through your whole invoice and going, okay, take out the sanitizer, take out the sanitizer. You're not taking all that stuff out. It's all right there for you. Your food falls in one spot. You go, boop, 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 and you add up the month's worth of invoices. It's done, just like that. Some people, we have pizza shops, they're like crazy. They'll go and they'll just do wings on a line. Because they come to wings every week because they buy so many and they're so important, they're so impactful. So they do weekly counts. They want to know what's my variance on wings every single week, and they're looking at that. So it makes it super simple. You just put it wings on a line. They just add up those 3 invoices in a week. It takes them 10 minutes to do that. So talk to your people. There are tools out there. There's tech out there that can help you guys with this. And like I said, afterwards, if you want to find me, I can have you talk about it for a second as well. But I'm going to kick to Doug, who's going to kind of talk some about that variance stuff.
Yeah, so now that we talked about kind of what food cost is, you heard Corey talk about what theoretical is, kind of what actual food cost is. So you think about it in Oreos. Theoretical food, if you look at a packet of Oreos, theoretical serving size for that is 2 Oreos. Look in the mirror, how many, and I'm one of them, like, who actually sits down and has just 2 Oreos? Like, there are times you have a bad day, maybe it's the whole package. But, that theoretical food cost, it assumes that you've got perfect portions. There's no breakage, there's no waste, there's no shrinkage, which shrinkage means theft. It's not walking out the back door, somebody's not sneaking something on the line, they're not popping a bite, a couple fries, anything like that, but that's all theft. The actual food cost is what was actually spent during the time frame that you're looking for. So that's your imperfect portions, your accidental waste, the improper invoicing. Love to tell you that everything from a distributor comes in perfectly all the time, but you guys know that it doesn't. Things get missed, that type of stuff. Employee theft as well. So an example, and Corey and I will do this, but what if you make pizzas, how many people out there use a handful of cheese or a couple of handfuls of cheese to do it versus how many use a measuring cup to do it? Good. So, show you an example, like a handful of cheese for me. Put it in there. We're at, it's a handful. Well, who do you have working in the back of the kitchen too, right?
That's the point, right?
That's about 6.5 ounces. Sorry?
I literally have small hands.
Big heart, big heart.
Good job. Look at that. That was really a handful almost. Let's fill it. Agreed. Half.
So what's that do for your consistency as well as your costs? Like, my hands, like we did beforehand, are a little bit larger than Corey's. but so is everybody in your kitchen. So it's about managing standards and practices. You brew beer, like you're not just throwing in a handful of malt, a handful of hops, and anything like that. Like you've got a recipe, you're following it. Don't follow it. It's not consistent. It's not the same. It's the same thing with your food. You have to look at your food operation the same way you look at your brewery. So, what kinds of things can cause variance? Example, guests ask for 4-side ranch and gets them, your servers don't charge for them. Line cook forgot about the bread in the oven, and now they gotta make a new batch because they burned it. Cocktail server ate a plate of onion rings that they claimed was a mistake. Pizza maker overportions cheese on a large pie when the recipe calls for a handful. He's 6'8" or my size. Yeah. Busboy wiped down the spill with a stack of table napkins because he was in a hurry, instead of using a rag. Prep cook makes 5 gallons of unnecessary marinara sauce because we always make marinara on a Tuesday. It's just what we do on a Tuesday. Server drops off 4 coffees ordered by the table but forgot to bring them in. Bartender gives his roommate 3 beers and a shot of top shelf tequila to settle a bet. Kitchen manager overordered and had to toss a couple of eggs and spoiled spring mix. All of that, theoretically, about $113. So what does that actually mean to you? That adds up to over $40,000 on an annual basis that you could have had. Now, I like to put things in terms of food as well. So at an average annual 5% profit, what do you need to do in order to make that up? You need $2,200 a day or 151 cheeseburgers. Like, can you sell an extra 151 cheeseburgers a day to cover that waste? Or would you rather kind of manage that and walk through and set those standards? It's a lot easier to set the standards than it is to go out and gain that type of revenue on the top line. Waste reduction. So understanding that 4 to 10% of the food purchased is wasted. 30 to 40% of the food served is wasted. Look at the plates coming back into your kitchen. Look at the garbage can and see how much food is in there. People love to give piles of French fries onto a plate because it looks really good. But are they actually eating them, or are they sending half of them back? Because if half of them aren't getting eaten, then all that is money going into the garbage. So now that we kind of understand a little bit of that food cost, we're going to make some efficiencies on things. I'll let Corey talk through menus a little bit as well.
Yep. So yeah, I think that's key, right? Like having systems in place back there for portioning, right? For managing theft, to track the waste, it's so important. But now we're going to talk a little bit about, what is your menu doing for you, right? So I think that all of us probably spend a lot of time and energy on our menus, right? I think we all probably do that because we all know we're important to our business. But at the end of the day, I think that it's, hopefully we'll see here, that there's things that we can do better, and we can uncover some more buried treasure that we talked about earlier through our menu process and what we're doing to understand what should go on our menu and what things should go where and how we're pricing things, right? It's all wildly important. You're sometimes guilty of burying those treasures. But again, kick it off with a quick video, actually 5 minutes. This is one of my former colleagues too, Jenny. She's going to talk a little about menu engineering and the importance of having a system in place to manage how you're setting up that menu.
Hello, and welcome to Why Engineer a Menu. In this session, needs, outcomes, and goals associated with the menu engineering process within a restaurant are going to be reviewed. We hope these thoughts inspire operators to lean into the way that patrons now choose what they order and how much they're willing to pay for it. Ultimately, we want to show that a restaurant's sales can be increased by paying attention to the customer's experience, and also that through the use of data, science, and employee and customer feedback, they can even get more profit to the bottom line. Menu engineering has historically helped restaurants increase their profit by 15% or more throughout the years. With the United States restaurant industry sales clocking in approximately $800 billion a year, that potential 15% increase means that there's a possibility of having 120 billion profit dollars being left on the table every year in the United States alone. That's enough to give every single restaurant over $181,000 right now. Through science-based studies, menu engineering focuses on psychology to sell items that are high in profit while analyzing each menu item based on sales, profit, and the labor needed for the execution. While the concept of menu engineering has been around since the 70s, in today's market it has grown past standard paper menus. It now includes mobile and online menus, those listed on third-party sites, drive-through menus, kiosks, QR code menus, and even the menus on websites and social media pages. Restaurants are now being forced to incorporate the finger swipe on a mobile device into their menu engineering strategy instead of regular old eye movement. Fun fact, or maybe even a creepy fact, soon a digital menu board is going to tailor menu item suggestions for individuals upon approaching a menu. Could it be that instead of you telling it what you want to order, it will tell you? Yes, they are becoming intuitive with Bluetooth and predictive technology. If it recognizes a customer driving to the drive-thru that typically places a certain order or has a particular vehicle, perhaps the digital menu board can entice them to purchase a higher profit menu item. Over 60% of independent restaurant owners say they do not engineer their menus. Around 30% say they have a good idea of what their menu items cost to produce, and they try to highlight those items accordingly. But only about 10% of all independent restaurant owners know exactly what their costs are and have engineered their menus with profitability, labor, and menu psychology in mind to steer their customers to order the items they most want to sell. Even fewer owners report that evaluating the different nuances of mealtime engineering, and we all know that breakfast items are going to perform different than the dinner menu. Menu engineering doesn't just impact the food. It has an effect on the people that prepare, serve, order, and market the food as well. When staff or ingredients don't show up like they used to, on a consistent basis or with a consistent cost, restaurants need to be prepared to pivot. Keeping those factors in mind while the menu is being engineered can make it easier to adapt. Long gone are the days that an operator could save their way to profitability. Now they must engineer their way to increase their profits, and that looks a lot different than it did in the 70s. Rather than simply focusing on cost, it is important to also focus on profit and customer engagement, as these are now cornerstones of a menu engineering project. By engineering with kitchen layout, staff, equipment, and customer traffic patterns in mind, a menu can drive operational efficiencies in a restaurant too. Keeping a menu up to speed with food trends will not only help keeping customers coming in, but it also invigorate the front of the house team. Giving your customers something new is imperative because it keeps your loyal customers coming back and potentially attracts new customers that may not have been interested in the menu previously. Keeping staff abreast on what items are on the menu and telling the story behind the brand will help them create new suggestive selling opportunities as well as increasing their income. The menu is one of the first impressions of a restaurant's brand, especially when viewed digitally. The average customer spends 109 seconds studying a menu in a restaurant and even less time on a restaurant's website or online ordering apps. That's almost 2 minutes to go over every single description and detail on the menu. So how do we make sure the right item captures the customer's attention in that short time span? That 109 seconds also doesn't factor in known digital distractions like how long it takes before a customer moves on to the next website to review another menu because the PDF would not open, or maybe the website's just hard to navigate. If designed properly, a digital menu can promote business, attract more customers, and make the restaurant more money. Successful menu engineering does not depend on the size or style of an operation. It takes time to not only understand the sales data the restaurant produces, but to stay in tune with what consumers want and educate staff on the story behind the menu. When executed properly, the restaurant will perform better than 90% of their competitors.
So, okay, so So let's talk about the engineering piece for a minute. So what is a menu? And I'm not going to go through this too long, but it's a list of items, a communication prices, it's descriptions of your menu items, right, blah, 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 kind of space. What it really should be is your number one marketing tool, right? If you're bringing your brand to life somehow, some way, it should be people have an idea of who you are for the menu. It's your number one upselling tool, and we're going to talk a little about that, and like your staff, and the importance of how well does your staff not just know your menu, but know what you want to sell to them to sell on the menu. And obviously, it should be designed to deliver profitability. So we're going to talk about all those things. But to start, let me say this, it's just kind of anecdotally, don't probably agree with me on this, so like, go back 10, 12 years, we used to meet with restaurants and talk, and I'd look at their menu and I'd be like, holy shit, like, this is huge. Like, how do they do all this? Like, how much food do they have to buy to do all this? How much time do they train everybody to, like, execute this whole thing? And one thing that happened with COVID, truly, was I think people realized that, okay, time out. Like, we don't need to have these menus that are 4 pages, front, back, right? What the trick is having a well-curated menu that fits your customers' preferences and needs, while at the same time not putting too much pressure on the back of the house and creating inefficiencies and waste. So it's balance, right, of what you're trying to do there. So the question becomes, okay, we're going to make menu changes, maybe you do it seasonally or once a year, or you're going to do a new location, right, whatever you're doing. How do we make those decisions? What system, right, change that system, change the money. What system do you have in place that's going to help you decide what should be on my menu and what should not? And I think there's 2 things, right, that we talk to you all the time about, marrying up 2 different things that are very helpful here. Who here, she mentioned in the video, who here does break down their menu items by ingredient and units of measure and understand exactly what the cost is for the food for each item? So if you took a burger, bun, cheese, patty, 2 pieces of bacon. People do that now. Some pen and paper, right? Spreadsheet in Excel. Got it. Yep, that's what most people do, right? So it's so important. And again, I'm gonna say this again, go to your distributors. A lot of them have the tools. We have a great tool. There are other partners out there. Toast is here today. They have a great add-on on their software called Extra Chef that can do this. There are people out there that can help with this from a tech perspective and make that so much easier. Our system, right? I'm not a commercial, but just to explain how it works. You can take everything from our inventory, right? Burger, the the bun, the lettuce, the whatever. You put all those things in there, you all units measuring, right? 1.5 ounces of mayo, 2 slices of bacon, and it spits out the cost and it has our pricing. You know math. It's live, and it updates as pricing updates. So as markets move, the prices move. So you at all times have live insight as to what is the food cost of the menu item, right? The recipe basically, versus my menu price at all times. Right, so it's telling you what are the most profitable items on my menu and what are not. Cool. And then, if you have that info, and you marry that with your PNX report from your POS, right? Just what's selling, what are your highest sellers, what are your lowest sellers? It's easy to chart that out, right? We're going to help do that. It does by category, right? So this would be, I'll put it out here. You see 1 axis is popularity, 1 axis is the profitability, and it's going to plot those menu items out there. I think this is probably like a handheld category. You can see perhaps some chicken sandwich, some things popping up. But now you can look at this and go, okay, I'm gonna make changes. What should I do? It's very easy to kind of go through this. There's two easy decisions, right? There's 2 kind of that are a little more difficult to make. So if we look at this and go, okay, well, I got my stars up top there. They're selling and they're profitable. I'm not doing nothing, right? We're gonna leave them alone. We're gonna let them do their thing and let them make me money. My customer's like, cool. Then the bottom left, you're gonna see we got $1. Right? Not selling, they're not making the money. What are they doing? Right? It's an opportunity to innovate, right? Maybe replace them, maybe run some specials leading into that menu change and see what people, trends out there, what people are liking, right? And maybe replace them, or just get rid of them. Nothing wrong with reducing the size of the menu slightly, possibly, right? Who knows? But those, obviously, so those are 2 easy decisions when you do this. Then it comes down to the puzzles, right? You see these items making you money, but they're not, nobody's buying them. So why is that, right? How do we move those items up to the stars? And so there's things like server contests. Right? So to get your servers to start, pushing those and suggesting those and try to upsell those items, right? And then incentivize them to do stuff. Put them on last items on social media, right? Social media post those items to get people in there to do it. Where are those items on your menu? We'll talk about that a little more at the end, slightly, but when you're designing your menu, you have that item buried in the middle of a category, nobody's seeing it, put it in the top. You use call-out boxes on your menu. If you know you've got 70 items in your menu that are super profitable, use call-out boxes. Draw people's eyes to it. Right? You want it. The whole point of menu engineering is to convince people that what they should buy, not just what to buy they want. Right? You want to sell them a little bit so that they're buying those profitable items for you. So there, it's an opportunity to say, okay, what can I do differently with marketing this item or my staff to try to get those items to sell better, because they're making money. Then the other ones at the top there are your plow horses, right? They're selling great. You know, and everybody's like, I'm not touching that. I sell hell out of that. I'm not gonna do anything with that. But at the end of the day, how much are you ordering the ingredients for those products? Probably a lot if they're selling that well. How much pressure is in the back of the house? Could be a lot. How much waste is there? Could be a lot. Who knows? Right? So like, if you're gonna do all that work for those items, they should make you money. So it's about your menu price. And you know, we have this discussion all the time with people, and you know, they fight us, they don't want to change the price, and they do it and say, yeah, nobody really knows. You know, that dollar, right? Whatever that increase might have been. They like it, they're gonna buy it. Or maybe you look at portion sizes, maybe you can reduce some portion sizes when you're using it to drive profitability up, but that's, you know, you don't want to negate the experience either, right, for the person coming in. So, but what's the decision there? Because you want to move the puzzles up and the plow horses over is the goal there. But this should be an easy way if you are doing the work to understand what your items are costing you on your menu, marry it with your sales report, say what should be on here, what opportunities do I have? Cool. A couple other cool things. I'm not going to go through this too in detail. A couple things are testing new menu items, like I mentioned earlier. Features, specials, the younger generation especially loves to see specials. You can charge for them, people are willing. I know I am. When I go out, if I see a cool special and it's a couple dollars more than maybe I want to spend, I'm gonna do it. I might not be able to get it again, right? So like using that to your advantage, it also as a way to test how they sell. So if you can get, if they're selling great, those specials, and you're already charging, you know, good for it, you're making good profitability, it's gonna be easy to slide that into the menu on your next change. Training your staff. This is your front of the house and your, you know, waiters and waitresses. This is so important if you have waiters and waitresses to train them, convincing them, you know, and teaching them and showing them what are the things that you want them to upsell. What are the things you want them to suggest, right? Because they might tell somebody, "I love these nachos. They're awesome. You may not make any money on those nachos, right? They might be a lot of work. Why do you want them to buy that? And that pretzel, yeah, it's not very sexy. But it's $2 to produce it, and you get 10 for it. Like, that's what we want to sell. So convincing them, training with them, you know, doing those, incentivizing them, maybe contests, things like that. They're huge, right? And the profitability, you understand what's important in your menu. Then it's like pricing strategy. So we're talking about this next. Having a pricing strategy that works for you and allows flexibility for your business and why it's important as well. This is what we see all the time with people in the pricing their menu. Everything ends in a 50, everything ends in a .99, everything ends in full dollars. Right? Which is cool. And I know that everybody loves the full dollars, it looks cool, and you know, I don't know if I've seen this like 15 years ago, you go to like New York, Boston, you have this like bougie 35-seat bistro, and then you start doing everything at $34, $28, right? And then everybody loved it. It does look cool, I'm not gonna lie. But at the end of the day, it doesn't allow you the flexibility to make incremental changes if you need to on your menu. We always suggest to people 0.19, 0.39, 0.69, right? Allow yourself that room to move. So if you roll out a new menu and markets go crazy, like 2 years ago, eggs went nuts, right? If you're a diamond egg, you go nuts. Maybe you can't go for the whole dollar if it's competitive, but maybe you can get 60 cents, right? Or 30 cents. And if you do that, it's way less noticeable. Nobody's going to see it. And if you do that across your menu or across some categories, it can actually generate a lot of profitability to your business. As an example, right? 400 items a day, and that's 5 items, but 400 items a day, 6 days a week, do 20 cents on each item, 25 grand across the menu. So that's only 200 items, that's 12.5. Say it's only 150, it's $8,000, it's cheap prices. You don't have to hire anybody, you have to buy anything, or to print some new menus, that's all you have to do. But if you're not giving yourself that room to move and manipulate, it's harder to do in certain situations for certain items. I just had a guy working in Syracuse that had a couple locations that did 30 cents on 2 different categories. And I talked to him the other day, and he was like, couldn't believe how much more, it was 2 of his more popular categories, but how much more he was bringing in just by doing 30 cents on a couple categories for 4 locations. So like, give yourself that room. So when you roll a menu out, you can do something in 2-3 months, not to wait 6 months or wait another year for another brand. Don't do that. Don't kind of pigeonhole yourself that way. This slide here is just kind of industry standards, data essentials. So the point of the slide is basically, when you're looking at your menu items, right? You're looking at your burger, you're looking at your apps, you're looking at salads, right? Like, not everything, the days that are thinking 30% are just kind of tough to do when it comes to that, right? Like, proteins are what they are, the markets are what they are now. Entrees are going to be higher. You should be able to charge for them, hopefully, so the dollars are still coming in. But to be at 30% for everything, it's going to be tough. You're going to be at 38, you're going to be at 40, right? That's some of those things. Hopefully, when you aggregate the menu out, at the end of the day, when it comes to the wash, it's around that 30 number because you have things like apps. 20 maybe a little low, 25 is probably reasonable for apps, but soups, salads, things like that, where you should be able to get that 20%. And those are the big upsell opportunities too for your staff, right? Those things are lower. That's why it's so important your staff is upselling. They know it's all what to upsell for you and do that so they're offsetting some of the high ones. But just realizing that you want to balance out around 30, but you're going to have fluctuations. It used to be everybody just had to do 30% for everything. It can be tough now. The last thing I'm going to say is this too. So, who here designs their own menu? Anybody? Canva or whatever? A lot of people. Okay, cool. And I'm sure it's beautiful. The a lot of people we meet with have beautiful menus and they do it, or they have a local marketing person do it, it looks great. So if you're happy with it, cool. I would say this though, lean into your distributors, whoever you're using. Almost everybody has a menu team that can help you with menus. And the reason I always talk about it with our customers is that menu team is trained. They go to seminar, they do all this stuff to learn how to make menus for restaurants. The local marketing company down the road, they probably make it look nice. Do they know the psychology of a consumer walking into a restaurant? Not always. They know like how their eyes travel across the menu and where to put certain categories that are more powerful for you. Not always. They know how to use those call-out boxes and to place things in certain spots. The pricing strategies, things like nesting prices. You know, when I say nesting prices, you have a description for a burger, and that last period at the end of the description, the price should go right there. Yet everybody wants to put the prices at an end. That happens then. You have a line, and then put the price shop, just like Yellow Price Shop was. Right? That's how that works. Or if you have the price. The line, same thing. Price shelves need it. People will price shop. Now they're buying what they think is the best value, not what you want them to buy. You want to manipulate your customers in a nice way. You want them to have a great experience, we want to manipulate them a little bit to buy the things that you want them to buy. Right? So that you can be profitable. It's hard in this business to make money. Help yourself by doing some of that stuff. But that's why our teams, not just ours, other distributors too, really understand that. So if you have interest, talk to your distributors out there. They can help with the design piece and hopefully help you maximize and populate your business. What's that got?
We have about 20 minutes left. So we moved quick, we wanted to lose some time.
I got one more thing.
Questions?
Sorry, one more thing. I crowbarred this in at the end, so like, it's completely irrelevant to our title, but like, we talked about back the house and efficiencies and how to help do that. So, I think that this is an example of productivity or efficiency, right? Productivity measures like how much work you can put out in a certain amount of time, or efficiency is using the available resources to kind of produce that same amount of work, less effort, right, is the idea. I think everybody here is staffing a challenge for people in the kitchen. That's obviously everywhere is the biggest challenge, right? So the days of having that killer prep cook or two killer prep people in the back that can come in and bang out work for 4 or 5 hours, it's hard. And if you find them, they're probably not going to stay very long. Right? You might get them for a season, probably not even. Right? Like it's difficult right now to do that. So we talk to people all the time about create efficiencies and systems don't value people right now. Because they're not going to be there necessarily, right? Like you need people obviously to do it. But I'm not saying this is the answer to that, but I know we talk to people all the time about products that they're using, what they want to use, and everybody wants to do things from scratch. They want to make their own, and they want to, they're going to smoke this themselves, they're going to make their own dressing, which is cool. I mean, you want to do some of that, right? But be open-minded to value-added products and to products that are ready to use for certain things. I know like years ago, the quality wasn't what it is now. Like there are so many cool, awesome products out there that are high quality that take the labor out of things. If this is an example of sliced tomatoes, and it's probably hard to see, but this talks about how much less effort and time. You're gonna pay somebody $20 an hour to cut tomatoes, give them a cut, right? They're consistent, they don't call off, right? You don't cut your thumb off. There's no injury. Like there's a lot of things that go into that. There's meats now that are just like unbelievable, that are pre-marinated, pre-cooked, that are just seasoned. You can still make it your own, but implementing more value-added, ready-to-go products into the back of the house and eliminating some of that prep time and work is an easy way to create efficiencies. You know the price. So frankly, the price don't fluctuate much from those items because they're not market-driven as much. Like tomatoes would be a bad example, but some of those meat things I'm talking about are not going to go like this because they're already kind of processed. But let's think about that. I know people sometimes are like hesitant, like I don't want to do that stuff, I'm going to make myself. Cool, I love that. Those days, there was a day when that was fun and easier to do. It's not easy to do now sometimes. If you have a great staff, we'll go for it. But think about that. It's something I find pro art.
Talking about some of this and everything we went through, like if you're not currently costing out your menu items, you probably look at it and go, that's a huge project. Like, I don't necessarily have the time to actually sit down and do it all. Start with your top 10. Like, start with just the ones that make the sales for you so that you understand what drives your revenue and what it actually costs for you. And then over time, build it out to the full menu. But start small so that you have somewhere that you can drive and make a little bit more money there. When you look at like ready-to-use products and stuff, some of my favorite things is a peeled onion. Like, how many people buy a bag of onions, chop it, dice it, slice it, make their own onion rings, do all that? You can buy it already peeled. Most people don't realize that by bringing in the onion and you're paying a prep cook to do it, you're throwing about 40% of that onion in the garbage to start. So instead of throwing it away, you're getting 100% usable product. You can still do everything you had with it from scratch, but you're eliminating that prep, that opportunity to slice fingers, do that, and allowing your reputation and quality of food to kind of stay out there as well. Talked about some different tools that you can use. Craftable's a great one. Toast is upstairs. They've got tools that you can use. Restaurant 365, if you have multiple locations, is a phenomenal solution as well. And then a little pitch for us as a distributor as well. Like, we have an app called Moxie. It's got menu IQ in it. You can snap a picture of your recipe and it will build the recipe for you, so you don't have to sit and punch it in. We've got an inventory system that you can walk through and just type it all in on your phone or a tablet, whatever you want to do. The best part about all of that is it's free. Like, you don't have to go spend a bunch of money to go do stuff. I know our competition has it too, so if you don't want to work with us, ask them. Like, they have it available. Use it, because it's a great starting point to get yourself on the path to make some more money. Questions? Yeah.
Printing the menus all the time, and going up 19 cents or 22 cents each time, that's just, how do you do that efficiently, you know?
Yeah, I wouldn't print menus all the time. Look at it on maybe a quarterly basis or a seasonal basis. Most places will do it twice a year. If you're in a seasonal area, look at it as an in-season, off-season type of option. You can also look at the format of your menu. There's a lot of different options that are out there from materials on it. But I know when we print menus for people, like, we can do a design for them. And then when we need to make a couple small changes and do a reprint, it's a couple $100. So if you're doing it, we have people that'll do it once a month, every couple months. It's a marketing expense that they look at, that they kind of factor in. It's not a super large expense. But it's another one, like, if you want to print it on printer paper as well, like, if that's part of, like, who you are, like, you have a nice cardstock or piece of paper that you want to hand out and it's designed well, like, you can do that. There's lots of different options, or use menu covers and menu sleeves as well.
Do you suggest specials being just on a board or having a piece of paper in with a menu to show your specials? You know, sometimes you don't have to do the specials to you know.
I prefer to have a board somewhere that says that, but have the server speak to them. It's nice to have the printed piece of paper or a table tent to go with it, like, it kind of reinforces. So it depends a little bit on how many touches and also the skill level of their servers. Like, are you full service? Are you limited service? Like, do they come up to the bar and order? Like, how are they gonna see it and implement it? So it's customized for you. But if you're a full service operation and you wanna really dial into specials and that's something you wanna focus on, I'd do a board and I would do a printed copy, as well as have the server do it, because the more touches you hit them with, the more likely they are to order it.
I'd also suggest you run a contest, right? So tell the servers, you know, we're gonna give something to the person who either sells the most of the feature or better on the most percentage of the checks. Because that's the conversational sell is always gonna be Trump looking at it somewhere or something from that perspective. And the other thing is, if you've gone on a feature, you're either doing it to make more profit than if they bought your regular menu, or sometimes you might run a feature because you're gonna lose that product. It's coming to the end of the shelf life and you want to get it out quick before you lose it, that's a big time offer or something. Again, having that server make that suggestive sell, the idea that, hey, you've been here before? No, we got this great feature. Hey, you've been here before? Yep. Guess what we got this time for you? You do that, you can move to that product. That's more impactful than putting a box on the menu or putting a photo on the menu. Having servers say what they want to sell.
I think that's always the most impactful way to sell something is having your staff reinforce it and help you in carrying them. But Doug's points meant to depend on skill level of staff and how you operate and have staff in the manner and operate. But yes, absolutely, that's great.
If you don't want to print stuff out, just have I used to have a board and back, and my servers would write it down on their pad, and they'd tell the customer the specials every time that they walked in. It allowed us to be very flexible with it. When you run out of the special, it's not sitting on there for somebody to worry about. You run long on pulled pork, you can toss it in there, you don't have to reprint anything. You can run it for half a day until you're out of it. You go from there. Go ahead.
I would say that I used to work for these guys at Neil Swins. Everything they said, it's on bias. I love this guy. I love this one. Everything they said about food just translates to your bar too, right? Like if you do cocktails, what do you want to sell? You want to sell a cocktail that give you the most profit, right? If you don't sell cocktails, but it is beer, and you draw it back to that brewing thing, you all know that hazy IPA costs you way more to make than light lager or something else like that. Do your menu engineering on it, suggestively sell beers, and you're going to get your most profit. And done correctly, this can be 3 to 5% on the bottom line. So every $1 million worth of sales that you have, that's 30, 50 grand. Just by that's almost a full-time employee, right? So it's not going to take a full-time employee to do this. You're going to spend that time and that effort on it, you're going to see the results.
Other questions? Anything you think you can take away?
Yeah, we use you guys and we'll be knocking on your door.
That's the best thing you can do.
Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.